Hi, I'm Brendan, and for a while I've been helping you and a lot of people that you know with learning English in a way um, that allows you to practice, learn new things, boost your confidence, and also connect with words that you would use every day and words that are useful to your life. And one thing that is very important to me is this question of confidence. So I want to take a second. Let's think for a moment and think about who we are when we are learning a new language. Who are you? We'll start with there are two different sets we can think about. The first one I want to think about is who you are as in your first language. So I can talk, you can ask lots of different things. For example, I am I am funny in my first language. I am social. I am outgoing, which is the same thing as extroverted. I'm outgoing. We can say I'm dynamic or active. We can say that, what are some other things? I am um ah talkative or chatty. We have the word chat, to chit chat here in this word, chatty. What I want you to do is I want you to take a second, pause this video, and write for you who you are in your first language, okay? Take a second. Okay. And now that you've taken some time to think about who you are in your first language, I want you to focus on the aspects of you in your first language, the parts of you that you think you did not develop over time. These are things that since you were born, you were like this. Since you were born, for example, since I was born, I've always been kind of funny in the sense of kind of crazy, but funny. Social, not really. I was a little bit shy as a child. Dynamic and active, that's for sure. I've always been dynamic. I've always spoken my mind. So talkative and chatty. Yeah, I think so. So take these things. I'll copy paste these things here, and also funny. Oh, excuse me. Copy and paste. Okay. I have dynamic or active, talkative, chatty, funny. Um, I guess takes the initiative to. I've always been one to really, rather than wait, instead of waiting for someone, I just do it. It's a good thing and a bad thing. We're not going to talk about that. The most important are these are the things that no matter what, no matter, I'll take this off, excuse me. No matter what language you are learning, you will naturally be these things. So I will naturally be dynamic, be active, be talkative, be funny. I will naturally want to take the initiative. This is just who I am. It's my personality. I'd say honestly, my persona. This is who I am. However, although we've talked about who we are, who I am in my first language, who you are in your first language, it's also important to ask yourself who you are and who you want to be in your second language. Now, I'm at this moment, I'm learning a few other languages, one of them being Japanese. And one thing that's important to me is to be able to create a different personality between who I am in English and who I am in when I speak or when I, you know, think, read, write in Japanese. For me, at least for the beginning, What I want to do is I want to create two different people. This is your opportunity. Even if you're intermediate, advanced in your next language, take this moment and create a different personality here. Let's see, I want to be someone who listens more. Mm, I want to be calmer, honestly. I want to be less less stressed. That would help. What else do I want to be? Or I could even say I want to be more confident. Mm, I want to be I want to be I want to be a social person as well. There can be things that cross over, that bridge between your who you are, your first language personality, and your second language personality. It's okay if there are things that are the same in both. All I'm saying, who you are in your second language can also be a very different person from who you are in your first language. But no matter what, this will always be, these things here will always, always, always be in your first language and in your second language. So you will always be this person. Now, take a second. I'll give you some time to write down who you are before we continue. So pause this video and think of a few adjectives, a few personalities, a few ways you would describe yourself in your next language. Okay. So we talked a little bit about who you are in your first language, who you want to be in your second language. I think it's also important to describe a sort of bridge between these two because it's awkward. Yeah, it can be kind of embarrassing sometimes, kind of comfortable. Maybe you create a sort of identity in the first or second language that maybe you're in between right now and you want to really differentiate, you want to separate these two, or you want to put them together. Yeah, it depends on where you are in your language learning process. Let's talk about this bridge a little bit. So I'll bring this down. And with this, there are a few things we have to talk about. So, first of all, what's important is to be very, very open and honest about our fears. So, the question, if I can translate this into a sentence, let's put this as, what are you afraid of in when learning a new language? What By answering this question, what it allows you to do, what it enables you to do. I'll put this word here. Allow um equals enable. It's very, very similar. What it makes possible for you to do is to define that wall, to identify that wall that is blocking you, it's blocking you from going to the next step, going on to the next step. By saying and being honest with yourself and being open and being true about what you are afraid of, you're also able to describe the thing that is blocking you. So, first thing I want to do is to identify that thing. What are you afraid of when learning a new language? Now, it can be it can be lots of different things. For example, maybe you are afraid, maybe you're afraid of um being your being your best self. Maybe you are afraid um of of client meetings. Maybe you're afraid. I know I'm like this too, afraid of making phone calls in a foreign language, in a new language. It depends on you. I want you to write down two or three things that you are afraid of. What are some things that scare you or things that make you afraid when you're learning a new language? All right. So now that you have listed a few fears, okay, I want to go into the next step, which is, and it's kind of the objective of this video. How can I be more confident in my new my new language? So already we've taken the time. We've described who you are in your first language. Put the one here. We've described who you are, who you want to be in your second language. We've defined your fears. Now I want to use these fears, use your personality, the personality you've created, figure out how you can be more confident in your new language. What I want to do is I want to take some time and think about what are some things that you think could help you be more confident. Maybe it's more practice. Maybe you think moving to a country where the language is spoken. What else could it be? Maybe we could say, put yourself in this. Maybe it could be speak and use only the new language. Depends on how intense you want to go. It could be any of these things. But what if all of these, which are difficult, some of these are difficult when you don't have money. There are money constraints, money restrictions. There are time restrictions. Maybe you have a job, maybe you don't have time, maybe you have other responsibilities. So what's important is to figure out how you can balance that into your personal workload. What I want to do is I want to take some time to tell you a small story. When I was first learning, for example, Turkish, when I was first learning Turkish, I went to Turkey for the first time a long time ago. Um, and when I first got there, before I went there, I practiced all the grammar. I learned all the grammar rules. I was reading and putting focusing the way that I knew how, which was study, 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 study. Yeah. Let's just say that when I arrived in Turkey, it wasn't at all what I had expected. I can remember specifically that I was in Istanbul and I went to the kiosk, the ticket counter to go buy a ticket for a boat. And I was so scared. I was terrified. I had rehearsed, practiced and practiced, practiced the conversation in my head like five, six, seven, eight, nine times before going. I scripted it. I practiced it in my head again and again and again. When I went there, I was so terrified that the guy would not understand me. But the first thing he did was he smiled. Hey, how can I help you? He said in Turkish. And from that moment, I realized I had all of these expectations, all of these huge fears and doubts that are pushing me in the ground, really making me feel so pressured. But when the guy smiled and I started to talk, it was like I took that first step. I was walking, I took that first step into this unknown zone, into this unknown territory. It was scary, right? But the welcome, the comfort, the happiness that I felt from the person in front of me, it allowed me to feel confident in who I was. I knew I was making mistakes. I knew what I was saying is not the most natural way to say things. But I kept going. I said what I had to say. I kept going, and I realized that, it's okay if I make errors, if I make mistakes. It's no problem. And at that moment, maybe I didn't understand who I was in Turkish when I spoke in Turkish, but definitely knew who I was in English. I was sure. And so what I discovered was that although I didn't know who I was yet in Turkish, I decided that I wanted to know. I was curious. I was interested to know who I was in Turkish. And that led me to believe that maybe I might like who I am in Turkish. I might really like my personality in Turkish. This might be someone that I really, really respect, really care about. This might be someone I really like. So, taking this story into and turning it into an action plan that is useful for you. We'll turn it into little steps. The first thing is exactly what we did. We identified who we were in our first language. After that, we identified who we are in our second language. So I'll put ID for identify who you are in your first language, ID who you are in your new language, we can say new language, who you are, who you want to be, we can say who you want to be, okay, in new language. You identified your fears, which is very, very important. But with these fears, it's also important to take that first step. In English, there's this expression, I'm sure a lot of you know it, but there's this expression called a gateway. A gateway is like a portal. It's like a door. Yeah. A door that when you open the door, you take your first step. The first step, I'll put this here. The first step leads to a second step, which leads to a third step, and from there you take step after step after step until you start walking, right? So basically, the idea is that small steps become walking. And from walking, then you can go to running, to jumping, to swimming, you can do lots of different things. We can think of it like a baby that's starting to crawl, but it's even less than a baby because you're just taking one step and then another step. And these steps that I'm talking about is your interaction, the way that your interaction, you speaking the language, you writing the language, you interacting with people. And maybe like me, you'll realize that it is it's not just okay to make mistakes, it is important, even necessary. It is the most it is awesome, I can even say awesome to make mistakes. How can you improve if you don't try new things? How can you push yourself to the next level if you don't try new things? So it's important to make mistakes because what it does is it allows you to start to be curious about your about your identity, your personality in the new language. And once you're curious, maybe you might start to like the person in your new language, the personality in your new language. So what is the connection to confidence? Liking the person in your new language will allow you to trust and will allow you to create this bridge between you and the other person, which is you, between you and you. When we talk about this bridge, maybe this bridge is very, very, very long between, who you are in your first language and who you are in your first language and who you are in your new language. Maybe it's a very long bridge. And in the case, whether it's long or short, they're still connected. And here we have those connections. You can stay true to yourself. You can be whoever you want to be in each new language. Create a different personality, but you can be whoever you want in your new personality. And the confidence that you build is funded, is encouraged by the curiosity that you have to discover and to learn more about this new personality. So, with that, all I want to say before we stop is have fun, enjoy learning, connect what you need to learn with what you want to be, who you want to be. Allow yourself to try new things. It's okay if you make mistakes. It's learning isn't always like this. It's not always stable. It can be up and down and up and down and up and down and up and down. But if it's like me, it's down, 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 up, down, 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 up. It really is a process. And the more you enjoy the process, the more curious you are about what comes next, the more confident you will be in your foreign language. Thank you again for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I hope you have a great day. Bye.